Ohio State is a defending national champion, but can the Buckeyes go back-to-back?
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. During today's show, we'll discuss if Ohio State's coaching staff is built to win the Natty in 2025, as well as some transfers that I believe will provide an immediate impact. But first, Ohio State is a defending national champion. But can the Buckeyes go back-to-back? And that's the biggest question of the offseason. Ohio State has an opportunity in 2025 to do something that has never been done in the history of the Ohio State football program, is to win back-to-back national championships. There's a lot of great football players all around the country that are targeting Ohio State to try to take them down. When I look at Ryan Day, when I look at the roster, when I look at the coaching staff that he's put together, when I think about the acquisitions from the portal, when I think about the ingredients that Ryan Day has right now in his lab, I think Ryan Day is not only built Ohio State to have a roster, a team that's going back-to-back, but I think there's a real legitimate opportunity for Ohio State to run this thing back in 2025. The players, the coach, the experience, all the things you would want from a team that should be a legit contender to win a national championship in a particular season, Ohio State has the goods, man. They definitely do. And I'm not going to sit up here and say they're definitely going to win it. And I don't want to gloss over the reality that it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough for Ohio State to go back-to-back. There are only 4 teams in the history of this sport that have gone back-to-back. Nebraska, USC, Alabama, and Georgia. If some of you with that USC one, you may say, Jay, they didn't win the BCS title in the 03 season. So cool, take them out. Then it's only 3. Nebraska, Alabama, and Georgia. And all 3 of those teams, you could even put USC in this conversation since they did win. They were nominated as national champions via the AP poll in the 03 season. All 4 of those teams have great coaches. I mean, coaches that, if they're not in the Hall of Fame now, they'll be in the Hall of Fame in the future. I ain't ready to put Ryan Day in the Hall of Fame just yet. I know he's only going into year 7. He has the winning percentage needed. He has the experience needed. He has the national championship under his belt. He has a lot of things that are having him trend in the right direction to be a Hall of Famer down the road. But he has the same kind of characteristics in him that a Tom Osborne, that a Pete Carroll, that a Nick Saban, and a Kirby Smart had in them when they went back-to-back. And Ryan Day understands the opportunity, in front of Ohio State. They can't take it lightly. They can't just sit up here and say, "Oh, we are the Ohio State University. We got that block on our jersey. Oh man, we just roll in there and beat you by 50." Well, we thought it was going to happen a couple times this year, and it definitely didn't happen because, well, some things didn't go the way that Ohio State wanted them to go. Maybe they won that game, but you can't just say you're going to roll in there and win by 50. However, I think Ohio State has the stars needed to win the national championship in this upcoming season. Yeah, there are times you may think Ohio State should beat a team by a wider margin than they do. However, okay, they still won the game. But also, some of the stars that were there a year ago are still at Ohio State now. Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. Jeremiah Smith, the best player on the offensive side of the ball in college football. Caleb Downs, the best player on the defensive side of the ball in college football. And honestly, it wouldn't shock me in the upcoming season if there's a legitimate conversation about which one is the best player in the sport between Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. Because as great as Caleb Downs is, Jeremiah Smith is just as great, and some say he's even greater. That's insane to think about. But also, when you think about the stars with Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, who else is on those sides of the ball that are going to help them that played at Ohio State a year ago? A Cardinal Tate, a Sonny Styles, a Davidson Igbenogson, a Carson Hinsman. I think all of those guys that were starters a year ago, all of them are going to be very instrumental in Ohio State trying to accomplish the ultimate goal in 2025. Because everybody, all 130 plus FBS schools are trying to lift one trophy at the end of the season. It's that CFP National Championship trophy. Yeah, they may get a bowl win in the playoff, and they may win a home game in the playoff. All that's great. You want to get some money with that too. At the end of the day, you're trying to lift one trophy. It's that trophy that means at the end of the day, you're at the top of the mountain. I think Ohio State not only has returning guys, but man, they got a quarterback, an inexperienced quarterback. But if Julian Sand is a guy that everybody believes he can be, and if he progresses in a way that I think everyone expects him to, watch out college football. Watch out for what Julian Sand does in the Scarlet and Gray in the fall, especially when he throws to guys like a Jeremiah Smith, like a Cardinal Tate, like a Brandon Ennis, like a Bryson Rogers, like James Peoples and CJ Donaldson, a Will Kazmarek, a Max Clare. You can't gloss over all the skill position players at Ohio State because all of them are going to be very instrumental in helping Julian Sand progress. Now, Julian Sand, he's going to have to put in the work. He's going to have to grind. He's going to have to do the things that it takes to be an elite quarterback in college football. Do we want this to be another 2023 season where a lot of the issues at the quarterback position were what held Ohio State back from winning the ultimate goal? Absolutely not. Do I think that Julian Sand is going to be a guy that's a more Kyle McCord or a Will Howard or a Stroud? I'm not ready to put a name on that thing yet or try to describe what kind of player that he is. I do know he can process at an elite level. He has a great arm, but you got to put it all together. And we got to see it in sequence and consistently on the football field over and over and over in the fall. But I think Ryan Day, like he always does, he's going to get that quarterback position right. But then to think about the trenches, because one thing we not only learned about Ohio State in the playoff, and everybody was reminded, yeah, they got the best receiver in the country, but if they not blocking, he can't get the ball. Ohio State on the interior, I think it's more prepared on the O-line in 2025 than they were on the O-line in 2024. There were more competition on the O-line in 2024. I think there's going to be competition in 2025 on the offensive line, but that's just going to make those starters better. We went over the projected starters for Ohio State's offense last week. I think it was on the Thursday show. Go back and check that out. You'll be able to get my early thoughts about who should start on the offensive line for Ohio State, because it's very, very important to know, because I got to share in that show a little bit about why I think Ohio State has the goods on the O-line. From a Carson Hinchman to a Luke Montgomery, who took massive steps forward in 2024, to key guys that are coming in from the portal and Ethan Ananwa and Phillip Daniels, to a guy in Ian Moore who may not start but who could be a key potential rotational piece for Ohio State on the O-line, depending on what Tyler Bourne wants to do with that unit. I think Ohio State, offensively, they could win the battle in the trenches. Defensively, those guys don't really have many starts under their belt. However, they got some dudes. And I don't always say that about guys that are very inexperienced. But Caden McDonald is a dude. Caden Curry is a dude. Keanu Jackson Jr. is turning himself into being a really good pass rusher. Oh, yeah, Edric Houston, 5-star kid, he's a dude too. That unit is going to be so much fun to watch. And if you want to win a national championship, we saw from Ohio State in the playoff, we saw from the Eagles and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, you must win the battle of the trenches. There's a reason why Urban Meyer always says it. There's a reason why in the season we talk about it all the time. I'm never going to apologize or go away from talking about what's real, what's always needed to win the Natty. Trench play. If you can't win the battle of the trenches, just take your name out of the national contender conversation. But Ohio State can win the battle of the trenches, and that's why they're currently a national championship contender. And some sports books, like FanDuel, believe Ohio State is the betting favorite to win the Natty in 2025. Yes, Ohio State can run it back in 2025. And a big reason why they can run it back in 2025 is because of some transfers that I believe will provide an immediate impact. We'll dive into some of those guys next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you could even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. As Ohio State tries to run it back in 2025, there are going to be some key transfers that provide an immediate impact for the Ohio State Buckeyes in the upcoming season. There are guys that were in the Big Ten. One of them was in the Big Ten that I think is going to be a starter in the fall. There's a guy from the Big 12 that I think is going to be a big piece of the Buckeyes rushing attack in 2025. Let's go one by one because I can't gloss over any of it. I got 5 transfers on my paper, and I believe all 5 of them are going to be immediate impact transfers for the Buckeyes. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an Ohio State guy. I think Ryan Day went out and got these guys for a particular reason. So one of the guys maybe viewed like Will Kazmarek was a year ago, where he's not a consistent starter. However, he's in the rotation, and he's going to be a big piece of that particular position room. So I'm not saying all these guys are going to start. I do think all of them will provide an immediate impact for Ohio State, and the impact will be felt against Texas in week 1 in the fall. Let's just get right into it. CJ Donaldson. I can't say enough about this young man. And I think with Donaldson, what he brings to the table for Ohio State is not just experience, but it's a different type of runner than what Ohio State currently has in the RB room. They just got Sam Williams-Dixon back from the portal. You have James Peoples, who is the presumed starter right now. You got 3 talented incoming freshmen and Isaiah West, Turbo Rogers, and Bo Jackson. And you can't forget TC Coffey, the walk-on running back who was injured last year, missed the entire season due to a leg injury. I do believe this team is built in that running back room to hit you and hurt you in various ways. I mean, you could honestly see Sam Williams-Dixon or Turbo Rogers getting on the field, either that slot or the H-back role. Think kind of Percy Harvin. I'm not saying they're Percy Harvin, but Curtis Samuel. Think about those types of roles. I'm not saying they're going to provide that type of impact and be on the field as consistently as Curtis Samuel was. I do think, though, that Ryan Day and Brian Hartline can draw some things up for Ohio State's running backs so they can attack the opposition in various ways. And that's going to be very, very key for a young quarterback at Julian Sand, being able to utilize your running backs in an elite way, in a way that it's not just check down here or check down there, but check downs would be great. But also knowing you can draw up specific routes that they'll be able to carve up the opposition's defense to where they don't know what's coming next, because Ohio State has so many different running backs that have different skill sets that are going to be great to utilize. And CJ Donaldson's one of those guys that's not expected to start, but he is expected to provide an immediate impact for the Buckeyes. And it wouldn't shock me if in the offseason he beats out James Peoples in the running back competition to be Ohio State's RB1. I think that experience of him having back-to-back 700 rushing yard seasons, almost having 800 rushing yards last year at about 235 pounds, I think he'll be down between 225 to 228 for the Buckeyes. And I think he'll still be able to keep that physical running style where he's not just going to be needed to be a guy that's running between the tackles. That's going to be huge. A bigger body, a guy that's done it a little bit, has some wear and tear on his tires. That's the kind of stuff that Carlos Lachlan needs in his room. The experience, the wear and tear, the leadership quality that he brings to that room, they're going to need that. But also Max Clare is going to be a guy, we think about a tight end that could split out wide and be a big piece of the Buckeyes passing attack. Max Clare's that guy. And I think pairing him with Will Kazmarek, you're going to get a great combination of a tight end and Kazmarek, who is going to be a great run block, great in pass pro. If you need him to block, great. He has the hands. He has some softer hands you might think, and could be a big piece of Ohio State's passing attack. But Max Clare is going to get a lot more of those targets. I don't know if I could give him and say he's going to be the Cade Stover type of tight end where he's going to be able to do it all. But he is not going to be asked to do it all. They won't need him to do it all. But I do think he'll be able to provide an immediate impact. And just be a different wrinkle for the Buckeyes aerial assault. Jeremiah Smith, Cardinal Tate, Brandon Ennis, Bryson Rogers, they're going to get the bulk of the targets. But at the end of the regular season, I wouldn't be shocked if Max Clare has the third most targets on the team, as well as the third most catches on the team, right behind Jeremiah Smith with the most targets and catches, and Cardinal Tate, who is second in both of those categories. I think Max Clare can be that guy. And just like Will Howard a year ago, I think Max Clare's coming, not just because Purdue was sad last year or because he doesn't trust Purdue's coaching staff or anything. If you can come to Ohio State, you're going to raise your draft stock and you're going to have a chance to win a national championship. Will Howard came to Ohio State to raise his draft stock and to win the Natty. He did both of those things. And I think Max Clare is a guy that can do both of those things in the upcoming season. The next two I'm going to pair in Ethan Ananwa and Philip Daniels. Ananwa, the transfer tackle from Rice, and Philip Daniels, a transfer tackle from Minnesota. I may have said Northwestern most recently, and I apologize for that. I've had Northwestern on my mind for quite a long time. And he's a former Golden Gopher. What's one thing we know about PJ Fleck and them Golden Gophers up there in that cold, cold, cold state? Man, they get the O-line right. It's just insane about PJ Fleck going from Western Michigan to Minnesota. And one thing that remains the same. He has very disciplined players. He has guys that understand their role. He has guys that do their job well, especially in the trenches. And Philip Daniels is one of those players. Anano's presumed starter at left tackle, Daniels at right tackle. They're going to be competing with Ian Moore can play either side of the ball. But with Ohio State losing both tackles and a backup even, and Simmons and you lost three backups. Excuse me. You lost Bahalski, who was a backup left tackle. You lost Josh Simmons, who's a starting left tackle. The third string left tackle, and Donovan Jackson, he's gone to the NFL. And then Josh Fryer, the starting right tackle, he's also gone to the NFL. You need some guys there that could just come in and start right away. Anawa and Daniels can do that. Now, I may want to say, Jay, what does Ohio State's depth look like at tackle? It's not great. The Armstrong twins, even though they're coming in a year two, they're not ready to play guard or tackle for Ohio State. Ian Moore, I think, is the only guy that could play tackle for Ohio State in the fall. The one I would say is Tegra Shabola. Tegra is a right guard, or he was in 2024. I don't think it's his position. Even when he was getting recruited, I never looked at Tegra and said, "Oh, he's going to be a guard for the Buckeyes." Absolutely not. I've always viewed Tegra as a tackle, and I think part of the reason why he was struggling this year, one, I don't know if he was even ready to play that much ball for Ohio State in the fall. But however, he may have been out of position. Ohio State, unfortunately, had to play a guard at left tackle, a guard at left guard, and I think you're playing a guard at right guard. I think Josh Fryer even is playing out of position at tackle. I think Josh Fryer is better at guard, but they played him at tackle the past couple of years. Hopefully, we don't have what we've seen before. Ohio State played for tackles a couple years ago, and this past year, I really think they played for guards on the O line. Put him at tackle. Because part of me thinks, and I want to be optimistic about Tegra Shabola because I don't want him to get in the battle and lose his confidence. I want to be as optimistic as possible and realize Tegra Shabola could compete for the starting right tackle spot. And that might be the best spot for him. He does have to get more athletic. He does have to get more physical. He does have to get more of a physical mindset, you may want to call it. I can't think of another way to describe it right now. Get meaner, man. Like, I don't have to use a big word. Just get mean. Become a meaner player. And I think Tegra has some meanness in him, but he just has to get a little meaner or pull all that mean stuff outside, which, great, do it. You're playing an offensive lineman. Wait, you're playing football. It's okay to be mean. But I do think Tegra at right tackle is one of those guys. Well, I think Daniels is going to be an immediate impact guy. I think him and Tegra are going to be competing over and over to start a right tackle, excuse me. Then last but not least, Logan George, the Idaho State transfer. Logan George is one, he's not going to start. But if I think about a guy that was great at his previous spot, understands coming into Ohio State, you're not going to start. You're not jumping Caden Curry. You're Kenyatta Jackson Jr. in the depth chart. You're probably not jumping Zion Grady. You may or may not jump Joshua Mickens, but you can be a guy that can come in and play right. I think he's going to jump Mickens right away. I don't think there's any question about that. I do think Logan George is going to be a great rotational piece that could go back or forth, either subbing and replacing Curry on the field or replacing Jackson Jr. on the field. I think Logan George is going to be one of the best underrated acquisitions from the portal that Ryan Day snagged this offseason. Ryan Day had to snag some guys in the portal. He also had to snag some guys while trying to fill Ohio State's coaching staff. And that leads with my last thought about Ohio State trying to run it back in 2025. Is the coaching staff built to win the Natty in the upcoming season? I'll tell you next. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Thank y'all, man. Thank y'all for the growth. Thank y'all for tapping into Locked on Buckeyes here in the offseason. We're going to ramp things up like we always do in February and March and into the spring showcase this year. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked on Buckeyes on YouTube or Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Also, make sure you leave a 5-star review and a rating on Apple and Spotify. Leave a comment on YouTube. Hit that bell on YouTube so you could get notified anytime a new show goes live. Let me tell you about this coaching staff. I'm not going to waste any time about this because, man, Ryan Day may have knocked it out of the park. I'll tell you why I say may have in a second. But you think about the coordinators and Matt Patricia and Brian Hartline, different paths to get to Ohio State, different experience in coaching, but I think both those guys are ready for the role. Think about the co-OC and the co-DC. Co-OC and Keenan Bailey, co-DC and Tim Walton. Tim Walton's been a DC numerous times, 3 times in his coaching career. Keenan Bailey, a first time in a co-OC role. However, I don't think Ryan Day would put him here if Ryan Day didn't believe he's ready for this. I have a lot of trust in Ryan Day's ability to hire the right coaches and promote him. Think about the other guys on the defensive and offense. You got Tyler Bowen, new O-line coach, and I think that's a sneaky great hire. A guy that knows the entire offense and knows how to run the entire offense is now able to help the O-line at Ohio State work with the entire offense at a consistent rate. Man, Tyler Bowen, I can't wait to watch him more and see what he does with the O-line. Carlos Lachlan, enough said. There's one he might be my favorite coach at Ohio State, to be honest with you. He's only been there for 1 year, but man, was his impact immediately felt with those running backs. Larry Johnson, James Laurinaitis. For Carlos Lachlan to jump that over James Laurinaitis, and James Laurinaitis is one of my favorite Ohio State players of all time. That's huge, man, because Laurinaitis had them LBs playing. It's kind of like a flashback about 10 years ago, Buckeyes linebackers and the way they used to play. It was fun watching them boys fly around the field and smack everybody every single week. Larry Johnson, he's a legend. His unit got it done in the playoffs when you needed them the most. This coaching staff is built in a way to win the national championship from the experience that they've had, their time at Ohio State, knowing what it takes to work with Ryan Day to be a Buckeye, from their ability to work well with each other. It's just odd for me to even think about Ryan Day making so many changes and moving this guy there and bringing this guy in from the streets. Ryan Day did a great job, a phenomenal job. The Matt Patricia one, while Logan George may be sneakily the best acquisition or most underrated acquisition, people are not going to give Matt Patricia his just due until the fall. And it's not because of Matt Patricia and what he's done as a coach. People are going to hang a court case, which, I mean, that's a very serious thing. I'm not trying to gloss over it. They're going to say this man can't be a good Ohio State coach because of a court case. Okay. I'm not here to say yes or no. I'm just here to say that's a very serious thing. And if that's why you say he can't be a great Ohio State coach, I can understand that. Also, the Detroit Lions. Didn't do well for the Lions in the 3 years he was running the football team. Okay? A lot of guys aren't good early in their coaching careers when they become a head coach for the first time. Nick Saban didn't do well when he became a head coach for the first time. Nick Saban, when he went to the NFL, didn't do well. What did he do? Went back to college, where he was going to be. I'm not here to try to tell you that Matt Patricia coming to the college football is going to be a Nick Saban thing when Nick Saban was with the Dolphins. I'm not here to tell you that, because Matt Patricia is just going to focus on ball. That's it. And if there's one guy that knows how to run a defense at a high level, it's Matt Patricia. And I push back every time I hear somebody say, well, he rode Bill Belichick's coattails. Excuse me? What? That's like saying Brian Hartline rode the coattails of Urban Meyer and Ryan Day. Well, you may say, Jay, well, excuse me? Well, the teams were winning Big Ten titles, get to the playoff, won a natty, got to 2 national championship games. All he's doing is riding that team's success. No, it's not it at all. But there are people out there that are saying, well, no, he just rode his coattails. He was just Bill Belichick's pawn, and he did whatever the boss man said. Well, I mean, Bill Belichick's a genius. He won, 7 Super Bowls? 6 Super Bowls? I don't know how many he won. It's more than 5. It's in the same amount of rings that man has. And Matt Patricia was fortunate to be there for that long. Because as we know with Nick Saban, and as we know with so many coaches, after a year or two, if you don't have it, man, you're not going to be there that long. Matt Patricia, I think from 2004 to 2017, I believe, was his tenure with the Patriots. While Bill Belichick was not only the head coach, but the GM too. And you're going to sit up here and tell me that Matt Patricia was the guy that just riding Bill Belichick's coattails? Seems like hashtag poor analysis. Especially when that man was calling plays when he was the D coordinator. Just saying. I call that poor analysis. You can call it whatever you want to, but I think all that is to go to talk about from coordinators to the co-coordinators to the position coaches. I think Ryan Day has done a great job with building this coaching staff. Now, earlier I said you may be able to say these hires are great. And I've used that may word on purpose because it's too early to tell if these hires hit, if Ryan Day made the right decision. Well, I have trust in Day that in the future we'll know that decision was the right one. In the moment when it came to Kerry Coombs, it seemed good. We quickly realized it wasn't good. And so when it comes to Matt Patricia, we can't say it was a good or bad hire right now. We got to wait till the games are played. We got to wait to see what the defense looks like. We got to see look how multiple he is, what kind of different looks he uses. Does he roll out there and do a 4-down look and 1 linebacker consistently? Is it 2 linebackers? Is it 4-3 or 4-4? Is it 3-4? What are we going to get? We got to wait and see. It's too early to tell if Ryan Day has an A grade or a B grade or a C grade. While I trust Ryan Day and I think Ryan Day did the right things with some of these hires, I still not sold on one of them for various reasons. Not because that one coach that he hired doesn't know ball. I think he knows a lot of ball. I think it's a great D coordinator. That's all I'll say about that. You can't sit here and say it works or it didn't work until games are played. You can't. I like Carlos Loughlin as soon as he got hired. But after a year at Ohio State, we realized he was the right hire. Not because of my initial thought about Carlos Loughlin, but it was because of the way that Henderson and Judkins played on the field. I think Henderson and Judkins hurt their own productivity on the field, not Loughlin. I think if Henderson and Judkins play the kind of ball that they are known to play and use their vision in the way that they should use it, and also the old line play was healthy all year, I think you're looking at 2 guys that hit 1,000 yards for the season before the national championship. I'm not knocking Loughlin for anything that happened with the RB room. He was great with it. He did a phenomenal job. We know that after the fact. We know now on February 17th, I believe this is President's Day too, the Ryan Day made the right hire because of what happened on the field while Loughlin was coaching. Nobody, absolutely nobody can tell you that Ryan Day made a bad hire with Matt Patricia. We ain't even played a game yet. They ain't even started spring practice. So you can't sit up here and say, no, yeah, people are going to grade it. Oh, those are A grade, those are B grade. Those are talking points. Those are things that fill articles, that fill shows. Man, we are smarter than that. You can't sit up here and tell anybody that was an A hire or a B hire. You can like the hire. You can think the hire and that person is going to do a great job on the sidelines in the fall. But you can't say, oh, man, Ryan Day got it done. Ryan Day messed it up. You can say it because you like it. We got to wait to see what happens on the field to know if it's the right guy or the wrong guy. Kerry Coombs, the wrong guy. A lot of Buckeye fans liked him in the moment, but when he got hired and promoted to D coordinator, what did he realize? It didn't take long to realize that was a wrong guy for the job. That's not me saying Kerry Coombs is a bad coach. He just wasn't right for that role at that particular time. Matt Patricia, great coach. Brian Hartline, great coach. Do we know if Hartline will do a great job calling plays? No. Do we know if Matt Patricia is going to do a great job of the Buckeyes defense? No. We can think, we can speculate, we can even say what we expect him to do, but we have no idea what is going to happen. We got to wait and see what happens in the fall before we realize if Hartline is a good play caller or a great play caller or just about an average one. We got to wait till the fall to realize if Matt Patricia leading the Buckeyes defense, if he does a great job with it, an average one, or a pretty bad one. I think only 2 of the 3 of those options are going to happen, probably leaning towards one, but we got to wait and see what happens in the fall. Let's get back to the topic. I think the coaching staff is going to be great. I don't know I was going to go on a rant about that, but here we are. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes here on this Monday and making this show your first listen of the day. Now is a great time to check out Locked On College Football because my guy Spencer McLaughlin is a guy that does a great job of touching on all of the hot button topics in college football, especially Ohio State coaching, Ryan Day, the portal acquisitions, the NIL, the changing landscape in the sport. Spencer has you covered from coast to coast. You can follow him on YouTube. Follow Locked On Buckeyes on YouTube, or you can follow both shows on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get to find podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter or really any social media platform at jstevens07 and every email to jstevens317 at gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes here on a Monday. We'll see you next time.